Welcome to The Good Ride. I'm James Beastie, and I'm just being me in a world that isn't. And while I'm doing that, I reviewed the Nitro Step-On binding new for 2026. It's a binding that has the same limitations as Burton when it comes to adjustability. It has that same locked-in feel that all step-in bindings do because you actually are locked into the high back, but it has excellent response, a Nitro twist on step-on with excellent shock absorption, great dampness, and a fun all-around feel. I rode all of these on the Yes Standard Extreme, and I used my Burton Ion Step-On boots, and I compared these against the Union Atlas Step-On along with the Burton Genesis Reflex Step-On that is no longer in the office, but it will be referenced throughout the video. And when I compared these, I would put one Nitro on one foot, one Atlas on the other. And then I put on the Genesis Step-On. That's the best way to feel what's going on underfoot. And this is an honest, objective review without any brand oversight from Nitro. No money exchanged hands to do this review. And we can do that because of support from readers like yourself and from brands like Blower Board Shop, who've been supporting snowboarders forever. Recently, they're making a larger online push to compete with some of the bigger brands out there in terms of shipping, customer support, price matching, all that jazz. They've been selling to snowboarders longer than most resorts have been allowing snowboarders, so give them your business. They've earned it. So let's talk weight with screws and discs in for regular boards, not EST. These are 1 pound, 14 ounces. In comparison to the Atlas Step-On, that's 1 pound, 15 ounces, and 1 pound, 14 ounces for the Burton Genesis Step-On. But even with the heavier Ion Step-On, which is 2 pounds, 9 ounces, it wasn't heavy. Now, when it comes to Highback Flex, this is a pretty stiff high back, but if you compare it to, let's say, the Union Atlas, you can see there's a lot more twist and a lot more give, and the Flex is very similar to the Atlas with the Burton Genesis, although it does have the hammock, so it has an even better twist and a better, softer feel in the high back. It was more responsive than the Atlas Step-On by just a little bit, and a little more responsive than the Genesis Step-On, but I would say it's right there with the regular Burton Step-On, but is still a good bit far back from the Step-On X. Now, when it comes to boot to binding adjustability, you can slightly adjust and rotate the high back and play around with the forward lean, but not much. I wish it had the adjustable forward lean that the Genesis EST Step-On has, but it does not. You can slide this gas pedal forward or backwards a little bit to get your boot on the gas pedal, and then to center it better on the board, you can slide this edge to edge. But when it comes to stance width adjustability, you have none. You cannot slide this tip to tail, only edge to edge, unless you get a channel system board. Burton used to have a disc that they sold separately that was turned sideways so you could slide it a little bit tip to tail, but they're very hard to find these days, and you can't slide very much tip to tail either. You might not be able to get these centered and get the stance width you want, so that's a bit of a bummer. And I do prefer the Atlas Step-On in this respect because they didn't go with the Burton Reflex disc here. I took out the discs it came with that were narrow and put in an old disc, and now I can slide it and get stance width adjustability. Well, I can't get much more adjustability outside of that other than the gas pedal and screwing in something to get a little forward lean if you want. But there's no high back rotation, but at least you have more twist, so it transfers better edge to edge. And when it comes to flex underfoot, this has that same Burton Reflex tech that really allows you easy flex underfoot. It's hard to really show this here, but I could feel the board flexing underneath my feet, and it was flexing much more naturally, just like the Atlas does to a lesser extent, but still far more flexy than a regular Atlas. And the Nitro step-on felt like it was a touch less than the Burton Genesis step-on. And I think that's only because it's using more dense material here that reduces the flex but allows for more dampness. And speaking of shock absorption and dampness, if you want the dampest ride, this was the winner of the test that day. And I think it's the dampest step-on binding I've tried. This closed cell foam that looks like a cooler, but just feels super durable and burly in person, has such good shock absorption, and they have it throughout the binding. It doesn't feel like it's going to break down easy. It's much stiffer than the soft, squishy Genesis, but not as stiff as this foam. Although the EVA foam on the Atlas step-on is soft and shock absorbent, it just didn't feel as shock absorbent and as damp as this. But all three of them, the Genesis step-on, the Nitro step-on, and the Atlas step-on, provide A-level tier shock absorption. And when it comes to turn initiation and response, all three of these were very fast. I would say this was the most responsive, but even when I put one Atlas on one foot and one Nitro on the other, I didn't feel a huge disparity in response. They all worked pretty well together. I would say this is just a touch more responsive than the Atlas, and the Atlas is maybe just a touch more responsive than the Genesis, but it's all just massively responsive, especially paired with the Ion. I had to loosen the top because I just don't need that much response. I felt like I was one step away from hard booting. Sometimes if you set this up with a responsive boot, then you might overpower more easy turning boards.
And when it comes to carving, all step-ons have more overhang on the heel side because of the step-on mechanism, so they're not ideal for carving unless you have a really wide board. You're going to get a much better turning experience with normal bindings. Flow, quick release, and the new Phase Tech, it's not quite as good as Flow.
And then getting in and out, it's pretty easy in. It's a little challenging stepping out. The more I do it, the less I like it. I thought I would get more used to how it sticks right here, and it's kind of hard to step out. But the more I do it, the less I like it. So for me personally, I haven't been converted to step-on yet because I'm missing a few key things that I like. One, not being so locked into the high back that it limits your range of motion from tip to tail. I could live with that if it wasn't for the lack of adjustability, because that's huge for me. But man, it's hard to argue with the convenience. For me personally, I'm sticking with my Union Force and my Nitro Team TLS. That works best for me. But if step-on keeps improving ways to make the bindings more adjustable, hell, I might be in for shaving a few minutes off each day, stepping in and stepping out with step-on. So there you have it.